In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 communication missteps that will destroy a relationship. And they're criticism, defensiveness, contemptuousness, and stonewalling. And they've been found in research to threaten a relationship's health and can eventually lead to breaking up or divorce. The good news is that each of these big 4 destroyers of a relationship has an antidote. So take a look at this diagram, and it was developed by Dr. John Gottman. He called them the 4 Horsemen of the Apocolypse, and that's because they destroy the relationship, end the relationship. And often when we're stuck in a cycle of negative communication, we're unable to see our own part and what we bring to the problem. But with gentle coaching, often in couples counseling, you can learn to notice when you are using criticism, when you're being contemptuous, when you're being defensive, or when you're stonewalling. Criticism is making a global attack on your partner, saying things like, "You are so insensitive," or "You are such a slob," or "You're such a careless person." You are not describing a specific behavior, but a character trait, or in this case, a character fault. And the antidote to criticism is to complain without blame, which I talked about in a previous video, which uses a softened startup rather than a harsh or critical startup. Learning to complain without blame is key to short-circuiting criticism. Any relationship may give rise to legitimate complaints, but the key to avoiding getting a defensive reaction from your partner is to complain in a way that doesn't place blame on them in a critical manner. The formula is pretty simple, on the surface anyway, but it takes a conscious attentiveness, since we all fall into what happens in the way we express our hurts and our desires. So applying the antidote, a gentle startup to criticism without blaming, looks something like this. When such and such happens, it makes me feel this way. What I would really appreciate and love from you is to have such and such. So, for instance, when Judy says to Mark, "You're always putting your parents' needs before mine. You are such an inconsiderate jerk," the likely response from Mark might be, "I do not. And if I do, it's because you don't take any time to connect with them so that I can, be connected with them. I end up having to do everything." And so you can see how placing blame just engenders defensiveness, and it continues the cycle of criticism. So finding a different way to express Judy's feelings might sound something like this. "Mark, I miss feeling connected to you when you're with family. Do you think that this weekend maybe we could see them, that when we do see them, we stay close and connected to each other? It would help me if you check in with me every once in a while." So in that version, Judy takes responsibility for her feelings and then asks directly for what she wants without making Mark out to be the bad guy. And Mark, in turn, can listen to Judy's request without feeling that he has to justify and defend himself. The key difference here is that by taking responsibility and asking directly for what you'd like and what you need and what will help your partner understand that, they won't react to defensive with defensiveness. So let's look at the second of the big four destroyers, defensiveness. The antidote to defensiveness is to take responsibility, even if just a little part of the issue. It's taking responsibility, and it is huge. It's so very powerful. Yet couples I've worked with, it is so hard. But look at it this way. By being able to say, I see your point. I have been preoccupied lately, and I haven't been really paying a lot of attention to you or to the kids or taking care of whatever, the car, the household chore. You try to tune into essentially what part of your partner's complaint may actually be true and have some truth to it. It doesn't have to be all of it, but just some. Take some responsibility there and admit an oversight or a lapse of some kind, that you can see that when we are in fact taking responsibility, we're actually being strong. To deny is a defense mechanism that we often learn as a little kid. Dad says, "Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?" And the knee-jerk reply is, "Not I. I didn't steal the cookies from the cookie jar. But so-and-so stole the cookies from the cookie jar." And the defensive merry-go-round never ends. So now let's take contempt, which is, in my experience, the most toxic of all four. It is a complete disrespect for your partner. It can be verbal or it can be nonverbal, such as what teenagers do to their parents. Eye rolling. Oh boy, eye rolling is bad. At your partner, correcting them in public when they say, mispronounce something, say, sighing audibly, like that. Those show disdain and even sometimes disgust for your partner. And it's pretty awful to see. But when I point it out to couples in a gentle way, most people recognize themselves and actually want to change that behavior because it doesn't really feel good to act badly. We just kind of get trapped in our own ugly behavior, let's say, and we don't know how to find a way out. And over time, it just gets more entrenched in the way that we are with each other. And the really sad part is that kids take these traits on. Kids can turn against a parent when they witness this. I've seen whole family alienation syndrome begin in this way. Let's say a husband or a father treats his wife with contempt, and over time, a teenage son begins to treat his mom this way. The complete tragedy of this is that on an unconscious level, Dad, in this instance, gets the teenage son to do his bidding for him and is secretly gratified. These family dynamics are so harmful in the extreme, and they don't stop because the cycle of emotional abuse that begins with contempt, let's say, is often then perpetuated by the son to his girlfriend in his next relationships. So now for the last of the big four, I want to talk about stonewalling. This is like stiff-arming your partner in a discussion. And when a discussion that you're having, it gets conflictual and intense, a stonewalling defense is to basically wall off yourself so that you keep yourself safe for your own protection, but you keep others out. And that's a way that you try to stay in control And in marriages where partners use this, it's often for emotional over-arousal and self-regulation physiologically. But often people are unaware that they're doing that. And when I talked about that in the other video, it's when your heart rate gets accelerated, your pulse goes up, you feel like you're being attacked, and you put up that wall. But learning to scale your partner's wall isn't easy. Emotionally checking out of a conversation may create an illusion for you of safety, because ignoring a difficult discussion by not looking or turning away, leaving the room, it puts the overwhelmed person back in some kind of control, but it doesn't actually solve anything. So learning to be aware of those uncomfortable feelings and self-soothe and maintain composure helps partners to stay in control, in a better, a real control, not by just walling themselves off. And in this way, discussion can move ahead without getting gridlocked. And what happens over time is that the non-stonewalling partner feels very distant emotionally. And this is a way that the relationship stays unhealthy. But it keeps a kind of homeostasis in the relationship that isn't good. And it keeps both people feeling distant and unloved. And the conflict never gets worked through. Because you're metaphorically, when you're stonewalling, you're turning your back on your partner. And if this happens enough, in fact, if stonewalling is present in a marriage without getting sorted out, then I'll tell you, you'll probably break up eventually. Or, you'll just stay together for the kids, but unhappily so. And then the kids will witness that. It becomes a defense mechanism for them because they don't know any other way. So learn to do self-soothing is different than just saying, take a time out. Because for most people, taking a time out means they just leave and they don't return to the issues in a way that they learn to stay calm and to talk things over so that things get handled in a better way. Nothing is learned. Taking a time out is, of course, important. If things get so heated that you're beginning to attack your partner, you're yelling, screaming in a way that's really not healthy for either person, or that you throw things or walls get punched. But you, of course, in that stage, you need to take a break. But for changing how a conflict discussion goes, you need to recognize that you're flooded and overwhelmed, and in the discussion, find a way then to self-soothe. It takes practice, especially if you tend to be someone who uses stonewalling. You'll probably need some individual help in managing stress. You can try watching some short videos on my YouTube channel or many, many other apps out there to learn to take a soothing breath or take a mindfulness class. So there are many ways out there that you can learn to work with your physiological over-arousal so that you don't stonewall. So those are the 4 destroyers of a relationship, each of them with their antidote, and you can begin to understand how you use them, which ones tend to be more prevalent for you, which ones tend to be more prevalent for your partner. And I think when you do that, you will feel like you're being empowered. You're empowering yourself, and you're giving a voice to your relationship in a way that is going to feel so much better than using these 4 styles of communication. So stay with it. Don't lose hope. They're all workable, and they all really do have a way to use and employ an antidote to help you change the way that your communication style goes, so that you will change. You'll change the outcome, really, of your relationship. And you can also use these things in other relationships. So good luck, and I'll see you at the next video. Thank you.